Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, September 16. I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Chairman of the People's National Party, Fitz Jackson, says the leadership of the party should be settled by the end of this year. PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips has notified the party that he intends to step aside after the party's massive defeat at the polls on September 3. However, there have been questions regarding when he will go, with the PNP Youth Organization on Monday suggesting a 30-day timeline. Speaking yesterday on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, Mr. Jackson reiterated that Dr. Phillips will leave as soon as the party has chosen a new leader.
Let me make it categorically clear. The party leader, Dr. Phillips, wishes to go at the earliest time that the party can allow him to go. However, he has not given the party an ultimatum, which he couldn't, but he has refused to, out of being a responsible leader.
But when would you be hoping for, realistically?
Hoping to have that done before the year is out.
Before local government elections, if it's called this year?
Well, possibly. But don't hold me to it. It's a possibility, it's an impossibility. But we are mindful of that too.
And we apologize for the error in that caption. Of course, Mr. Jackson is the chairman of the party and not the general secretary. Now, Mr. Jackson says the PNP YO's letter to Dr. Phillips suggesting a 30-day timeline was unfortunate. He also says the timeline was ridiculous. And the opposition is hoping it will maintain its 14 seats in the House of Representatives at the end of the magisterial recount now taking place in the St. Anne's Bay Parish Court. The JLP's Delroy Granson filed the application as the seat was won by a mere 14 votes after the preliminary count on election day and just 32 votes after the final count. Mr. Granson believes the magisterial recount will favour the JLP, which would see the party fully representing the parish.
The People's National Party, the PNP, is hoping that it will retain the St. Anne South East constituency when the remaining 30 boxes of 126 are counted today. At the end of day 2 of the magisterial recount, the PNP's Lisa Hanna was still leading the JLP's Delroy Granson by 50 votes. The day ended with the PNP having received 3,843 to the JLP's 3,793. Jordan Whittingham, the attorney for the PNP's incumbent Lisa Hanna, says he expects little change with the PNP still holding onto the seat.
We can say with a very high degree of certainty that at the end of the recount, the Member of Parliament for South East St. Anne is and will continue to be the lovely Miss Lisa Hanna.
The JLP's attorney, Ernest Smith, however, says he expects his client, Delroy Granson, to emerge the victor at the end of the recount.
There has been some changes in the numbers, but nothing to write home about as yet. Sufficient to the day is the evil thereof. We await the final box, and at that time we are optimistic and we anticipate that the Jamaica Labour Party will take this seat like we have just done in Westmoreland.
It's understood that at the beginning of the recount yesterday, the PNP filed an application to halt the recount.
There was a concern with some of the contents or lack thereof in the application for the magisterial recount. A point was made of it and it was considered by the judge, who agreed that there were legitimate issues there, but felt that having ordered the recount, it was too late, so to speak, to withdraw it and elected to proceed.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
In the meantime, political scientist at New Jersey City University, Dr. Jermaine McAlpin, says the PNP can still make an effective opposition despite their reduced numbers in the House of Representatives. Dr. McAlpin says their small numbers should not affect the functions of the opposition. Speaking this morning on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program, he explained why these functions shouldn't be impacted.
The first and most obvious role of an effective democratic opposition, and in this case the PNP, is to impact policy making. Some may argue that, well, they don't have a say in the lower house. I don't agree. They can still make their voices known, right? Legislation is done in a bicameral, two chambers. They make up 38% of the Senate. They are still critical in impacting policy making.
Additionally, Dr. McAlpin says the opposition is required to keep the government in check and offer credible policy alternatives to what the government proposes. He believes the PNP's 14-member representatives should be able to do that. However, he noted that the leadership of the opposition is critical to the execution of those functions.
The government did not get a license to do what it wants or what it feels it should do without proper consultation. So to keep the government in check, the opposition has to focus on consultation, but primarily holding the government accountable and responsible. In other words, transparency. And whether you have 14 seats or 30 seats, that is still required. It's not the numbers, ultimately, it is leadership. So the quicker the PNP resolves the leadership conundrum, I think they are in the toe and in being a more effective opposition.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has hinted that changes will be coming to the National Insurance Fund, NIF. Now, the NIF is the fund manager for the National Insurance Scheme NIS contributions. Speaking at yesterday's swearing-in ceremony for MPs, Mr. Holness said systemic weaknesses have been identified arising out of the current pandemic, and so reform is necessary.
As long as each member of the House is willing to place the order of priority, Jamaica first, then the spirit of cooperation will work for Jamaica's benefit. So I declare here, Madam Speaker, that though we have an overwhelming majority, it is not the intention of this government to proceed in a way that would ignore the views of the opposition.
And Mr. Holness renewed his government's commitment to addressing the island-wide water shortage problems, starting with the South Coast.
We are not growing. Any community in Jamaica that does not have some access to potable water and Madam Speaker, I'm not here saying that this is going to happen with the snap of a finger in 5 years' time. But we need to do what we probably should term as some nation-building investments. We did nation-building investments when we did the Mona Reservoir, when we did Hermitage. Those have lasted us for a very long time, and we still continue to benefit from them. But we haven't in recent time done anything of that magnitude.
Now we now take a break on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in Jamaica now stands at 4,164. 122 new cases were confirmed within the last 24 hours. The new cases involve persons ranging from 11 months to 88 years. Kingston and St. Andrew had the most cases with 49, St. Catherine 30, Manchester 27. Other parishes that recorded cases are St. Mary 9, Clarendon 4, and St. Anne 3. An urgent call this afternoon for increased social intervention for at-risk youths in some of Clarendon's most volatile communities. Now, the call was made by the head of the parish, head of police in the parish. Now, they are afraid of idle youths who could end up in problems with the law. More in this report from Prince Moore.
The leadership of the Clarendon Police is worried that more youth could be drawn into lives of crime now that many of them are at home without any prospect of work or training stemming from the COVID-19 imposed restrictions.
When they were at school, we weren't able to contain them. What will happen now? They're required to stay home, and so we anticipate some challenges there. But I want to put it to the committee to say what is the priority that they will give to, youth engagement, youth development. How can we save some of these youngsters?
Superintendent of Police Christopher Phillips pointed to the recent incident in Effortville, Clarendon, when 6 young men were cut down by the security forces for alleged involvement in gang activity. He says he does not want to see that fate for any more of the parish's youth and called for social intervention.
Since I came here, I have observed that a number of our youths are involved in criminal activities. When I did my initial assessment of the wanted person listing in Clarendon, I realized that it was the average age group was about 22 thereabout, which is also a concern.
Superintendent Phillips was updating the parish's stakeholders on crime in the Clarendon Police Division. The parish has been enjoying major successes in 2020 with a 37% reduction in murder. As of September 12, there were 64 murders in Clarendon, 38 fewer than the 102 at the same time in 2019. Shootings have also dipped by 30%. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
The St. Thomas police are searching for a man suspected to be involved in the stealing of several goats in Yallis yesterday. 2 suspected goat thieves were also nabbed along with 8 goats. It's reported that about 1:30 in the afternoon, a police team acting on information intercepted a coaster bus along the road. It's understood that 1 man ran from the vehicle while the other 2 men, both from St. Thomas, were arrested. Upon inspecting the vehicle, 8 goats were found inside.
We just in the yard, when we look around here, say the bus, pick up the goat them off of the ball field and gone. Take up my father goat, my neighbor goat, the whole of the goat them and gone. Why would them take the goat and go with? Under AC, have the bus, the goat them under AC in the bus.
I lose couple goat, the Peter lost in them pass and stole my goat them, but the police get contact and got them. So I'm at the station right now trying to clean my property.
The Yallis police are urging residents who had their goats stolen recently to contact them at 876-982-5075 or the Morant Bay Police at 876-982-1027. That's 876-982-1027. A 24-year-old woman from Richmond in St. Mary has gone missing. She's Kelisha Foreman. It's reported that Miss Foreman has not been seen since the 28th of August. At the time she went missing, she was wearing a black and white dress and a pair of black and white sandals. A family member says she suffers from mental illness, as this is not the first time she's gone missing.
She left home one time already to an unknown destination. Although some people saw her in St. Thomas, which is Bull Bay area, the first time that she left. We don't know where she went, but she did come back that time. Your little sister, Kayla, would want to see you come home. She's been crying from the day you leave. She wants to see her sister. She wants her sister to come home. Her one brother, our brother by our mother's side, is saying that wherever you is, come home.
The family of Miss Foreman is appealing to anyone who may have seen her or know of her whereabouts to contact the St. Mary Police or call 119 or the nearest police station. Taxi operators who terminate their route in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth are upset with a decision from the police department to deny them access to parking along the main street in Santa Cruz. The operators are now parking at the number 2 bus park in Santa Cruz. This, they argue, creates a disadvantage as commuters are not willing to use the new bus park because of the distance from the town centre. They also complain that the bathroom facilities at the transport centre are inadequate and lack running water.
We need shed in the park, man. We can't stay at this. Too rough. We have to stay in the rain, and fall, we have to wait up in the rain to put in passenger in the car. That can't work. Can't work, man. We want shed.
We want shed in here, we can't walk in here, so and spare with money. We need shed, we need cover people them. And light, cause then we get robbing at night. And police not in here with we.
Several times we send message, so we don't like some shedding. Because it hinder the passenger them from coming over here, because when the sun really hot, it's terrible, you can't hardly get passenger over here, because everybody I run for shed and it's unfair. If we go and use it, we don't refuse to use it, but give us some shed.
Now this morning, scores of commuters had to run for cover close to the number 2 transport centre while it rained. This as there is no shelter in the bus park. And here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the health report, we'll look at post-traumatic stress disorder and COVID-19.
Well, I've had patients that have presented with increased dread and fear of the future and difficulty in terms of anxiety with regards to their financial stability and also their future prospects because they're uncertain about the future. Usually it's persons who had a difficulty in terms of controlling personality types, who want to be in control. Those are the first ones tend to have the decompensation because this is not a time where we have much control over anything.
That's the health report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Stay active, set boundaries, build a supportive network, and seek counseling.
Time now for sports. Despite being in touching distance of 1,000 T20 runs and 50 wickets, West Indies women's vice-captain Hayley Matthews says her focus will not be on attaining those personal milestones when the 5-match series gets on September 21. The 22-year-old opening batter has scored 948 runs in 50 matches with a top score of 107, while she has taken 46 wickets at an average of 18.26 runs.
The last 5 years since I've started playing for West Indies, and I think those milestones probably come about while playing for the team. So of course there's stuff that you definitely look forward to when they do come along, but I think the team goal always comes first, and it helps to bring those.
With only 5 days remaining before the series bowls off in the biosecure facility, Matthews says the players are hoping that the time spent preparing in England will pay dividends against the hosts.
Probably having the camp here for the last month especially really helps us out a lot. The girls are kind of trying to make this into our own little home ground that we can call it. Just hoping that we can get really, really accustomed to these conditions before the first game. So that when we get out there, we're really able to push hard and, hopefully get the series off to a good start.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a wonderful afternoon.